Okay, so this is Agla, and she has taken the Boundaries course. Would you please share your experience?
Sure. Um, so, well, my experience was great. Um, I started thinking that having boundaries was just to say no to things that I don't want to do. And I found out it's so much deeper than that. Thanks to you, I learned how to feel boundaries in my body. And I learned how to see myself in a position that I never thought that I will see myself before,
Mhm.
which is uh, and you know this, I'm a workaholic. I like to work like a lot, and I think that I need to do over serving to my bosses, to my everyone, right? So I learned that it's not necessarily something that I need to do a good job. And even I start feeling better just to put boundaries on myself, to live in at the right hour that I need to leave, not work more than necessary, and well, just to have a different life, like a different setup of life outside my work. And also, it was magical. Like I start to understand what I really like by like Agla, what I truly like, because before it was just like, yes, I like this, or no, I don't, but it was like superficial. I never stop and take like the 20 seconds that I need to take at least to understand what I really like. And I started doing things that I never expected to do, like cooking, for example. Like I never, but I found out that I like and I enjoy it. And well, another things too that I started to do. So for me, it was like a change of experience of like, well, how do you say, like my life changed completely, basically. I have more time to myself. I enjoy the time that I have with myself, but I also enjoy my time at work, which I didn't before. I can tell you before, even though I work weekends, that I didn't need to work weekends, and I worked them, it didn't feel right as as today. Today I don't work more than necessarily, and it feels good. I don't feel guilty, or I don't feel responsible for things that I'm not supposed to do. So that's basically the huge change that I had.
Thank you for sharing. It's pretty cool to hear what you said because it almost sounds as if you had like an unconscious addiction to the overwork, but maybe you didn't realize it was an addiction. It almost probably felt like a necessity. Like if you didn't do that, like you'd get fired or something like that. What's your
Yes.
response to that?
Yeah, absolutely. If I, that's it. I always felt like I didn't do enough, so I will be the next to get fired.
Yeah, yeah. So this is very interesting because this shift that you talked about is actually extremely profound that a lot of people aren't ready to make because it takes, without going into too deep into it, it takes your going from overserving back into the outside of allow place that you started from, right? And dealing with the fear of not being safe. So the overwork, right, was a reaction to the fear of not being safe. So there might have been an unconscious feeling, no matter where you are, even at the grocery store, that you're sort of unsafe. So there's a kind of like overdoing, in unconscious ways that you didn't realize you were doing, but it did keep you safe when you were little. Like overdoing stuff did keep you safe when you were little. And to look at that fear, to unlayer all that stuff and look at that fear and then shift into actually feeling safe is very profound shadow work. Very profound. um,
Yeah.
could you speak more to that process where doing boundaries work is essentially doing shadow work? And in your case, I mean, do you feel what I mean of having to look at, am I safe or am I not safe? How do I make myself feel more safe? Because that's another thing you were saying is you put boundaries on yourself, like you leave work when you're supposed to, and you don't overserve. So when you're masculine, I'm hearing that your masculine is more reliable than in the past. So if that's the case, that's what makes you feel more safe. Like you are more safe with yourself, no matter what your external circumstances are. And could you please speak more to that?
Well, first, thank you for bringing that up because that was a thing that I didn't know before the course, like boundaries, the will, the
Wheel of consent.
well, the will of consent. Where am I in the will of consent?
Yeah.
So once I learned, it was easier for me to understand what was happening when I was I was looking at my shadow, and when I was over serving, when I was outside of serve, all those things helped me to put myself in a position of understanding what was happening to me when I was little, when I am like grown up now, and how can I change? Because it's easier once I know where am I. It's easier to shift. I mean, it's still a lot of work that it needs to happen, but before I have no idea. I never saw it like that. So you gave me the perspective to understand why am I overserving?
Hmm.
Why am I being a parasite? Why, right? That was a huge thing. So yeah. So what happened is once I understand, I make peace with the idea
Hmm.
and basically try to do all I needed to do. And up to this day, I still try to do everything that I need to do, especially not to give this, to have this thing that I used to have or I didn't see to my daughter, which is the other thing. Like, I don't want her to learn what I didn't know before. And it's never to feel my own boundaries. So that helped me to understand what I was turning her to, the same as me, right? The same uh, outside of the will of consent. So yeah, I don't know if that responds
Oh no,
your
I mean,
question.
thank you very much for that. That was really deep stuff. I mean, just even naming parasite, where like that's another aspect of shadow work, where if you identify as the overserver, because that's what your ego knows you do and feel comfortable with, that means in your shadow, you're actually the parasite, which is what you identify other people as. Maybe you think your job is the parasite, or your boyfriend is the parasite, or something like that. But especially if you have a child, then usually you are that position with the child, and the child takes on the shadow position of you. So
Yeah.
that's really deep stuff that you just mentioned. And I want to applaud you for having the kind of masculine that you can just take in what is and not just flat out reject it because you're scared. I think you understand that position where the truth is so painful. It's easier to take the lazy position and hide and go, no, it's not my fault. But kind of take responsibility for everything, including even if, and this is true for almost everyone, even if your parents are at fault for the trauma that you experienced that caused you to form an ego, that caused you to form the shadow, and in some people's cases, their ego is the overserver and their shadow is actually the lazy parasite. And they don't see the lazy parasite as much; they see the overserving. Now that you're an adult, it's your responsibility to like deal with all that. And unconsciously, a lot of people, even as adults, sit back in the parasite position and wait for their parents to see them, if that makes sense. They wait for their parents who are in their 60s and 70s to go, I'm so sorry. I see what I did. I see you now. I appreciate you now, and I'm going to change everything. And as a result, these people kind of stay 3 or 4 years old emotionally, even though they're in their 40s. And so, what you said goes very, very deep. And it has to do with taking responsibility for your present situation. And in your case, also taking responsibility for your daughter's present situation so that it doesn't happen again. But what I want to underline is how scary or it's almost like a death to accept that it's your turn now to deal with everything. And my mom and dad won't do it for me anymore, if that makes sense. You unconsciously stay 3 or 4 years old, so the work you did, again, I want to applaud your masculine. You just stepped up, you know you did what needed to be done. And I think that's what allows you to trust yourself. And personally, I think that's what allowed you to like fix your relationship with the universe so that the universe also felt trustworthy. And therefore, it's easy to just leave work when you're supposed to leave work, which again, that's like a huge habit that a lot of people share. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And also, when what you said about put the position, so the universe will put you in the right position too, is like you. I started to understand that I put persons in my life or relationship with my life in the shadow, so I
Mhm.
can keep being this overserver, so I can keep being a parasite. So understanding that there is something that I can change, it changed everything. The relationship with the people that I have, the relationship with my boss, with my work, with everything, it shift because now I'm no longer in that position in the wheel. I'm no longer outside of the wheel, so I have power within the wheel to uh, understand myself, to be more myself.
Mm.
That helps too.
Have you found that the people you interact with, have they become different people, almost like different versions of themselves? Or like, how did that occur for you? Like, where if the fear that a lot of people have is if I only work the hours I'm supposed to, I'll get fired. If people have that fear, how did it come about that actually that was not the case? And in fact, you maybe have a better relationship with your boss because you guys are both in consent now. You know, you're not forcing him into the parasite position.
Yes, yes, correct. So the work shift and it got better in a way that people know that I'm gonna leave. For example, that's what I
Sorry,
feel. That's my
could you please repeat
perspective.
that? There's like a lot of noise here.
Oh,
Sorry. What did you say? That like the work shifted and
shifted because what I my perspective is that since people have this very clear idea that I'm gonna leave at my time, so they work better with me on
interesting.
working hours. They don't wait until the end of, they don't rely on the fact that I'm gonna be there after hours. So work gets done earlier
Yeah.
than before and better than before, more effective. And yes, the relationship is better with the people around me because they understand this. You know, they understand that I'm gonna be working my full, I'm gonna give my best only in my working hours. And that's it.
So
So
you uplifted the people around you. Yeah,
yes,
that's interesting. That's interesting. Do you think they feel safer themselves? That's interesting.
absolutely.
How can you
Mhm.
tell? Like, is it like, how can you tell that they feel safer?
We There is more trust on the things we do
Yeah.
with each other, and I can tell it's something that I can feel now. I can sense, and the relationship, like I said, with my boss is better. Like he will say, "Let's plan this. I know you have to leave in like 20 minutes. I don't know. So don't worry about doing it today, but just let's plan this today so you can do it tomorrow when you
Yeah.
get back." That never happened before.
So that's interesting. What I want to highlight and what I heard you say is that, sorry, I am being distracted. So just a second. Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that. So what I heard you say is something interesting because I think a lot of people who haven't done this kind of boundaries work feel that setting boundaries means saying no to other people or just saying stuff to other people. But in your case, what you did was you set boundaries with yourself. And as a result, it's almost as if you didn't even have to say anything to other people. You taught them how to respect you because you already respect yourself. And therefore, you didn't even, it doesn't sound like you had to go around repeatedly saying things to other people. It's more like you just carried yourself in a certain way, like the inner work comes first. And this is something that we learn about in the boundaries course is that the inner wheel comes first. And the outer wheel is just a reflection of the inner wheel. And so your masculine was taking care of your feminine better. And as a result, your outer world was treating you better. And also, which is interesting, the other people in your life, even if they can't verbalize this, they felt your masculine being more integral, in which case they felt more trust with you, which is very interesting. Because personally, I think trust and intimacy are the deepest and highest spiritual experiences you can have between humans. So you're able to cultivate that at work.
correct.
Um,
Yes.
Do you have a response to that? This idea that if you set boundaries with yourself, which I'm not sure people even understand that concept, if you set boundaries with yourself, you don't have to go around verbally setting boundaries with other people, especially because what I see is whatever vibration you're at and whatever your shadow is, and in this case, we're talking about this idea of parasite, whatever your shadow is, your world will reflect that. So if you're asking people to be your parasite through your vibration and through your own boundaries with yourself, you're asking people to be your parasite, but then you're like mad at them and you say and then you say something and then you don't do it anyway because you overserve the parasite. You know what I mean? Like because they create an emergency or something like this. I think this is something key that a lot of people don't understand, that you can't verbalize something, but energetically do the opposite. And most people don't understand that they're energetically doing the opposite. It's very simple. Like if you have a dog and you tell your dog, no, that doesn't feel like a no. There's no anger, there's no masculinity. Like, no, that's a no, right? They don't understand the word no, maybe they do, but they understand energy. So I see this a lot with dog people in my neighborhood. They don't have the vibration when they give a command. So do you have anything to say on that idea that shifting your own personal vibe is more important than what you verbally say to other people when it comes to boundaries?
Yes. So one thing you told me is, since I wanted to keep being in the outer wheel or outside the wheel,
Mm.
outside of the wheel. So that meant that I needed to push people outside of their own will too. So we can all be outside of the wheel. And sometimes people will get mad at me because I will force them to be outside. Like you said, don't respect myself, so they don't have to respect themselves.
Mhm.
So that's a reflection, right? They will react to that. And then once I shifted, they no longer needed to be outside of their own will either, just to hang out with me or just to be with me or just, to be a part of my life. Now they don't. I mean, some people left, of course, uh, but the ones that stay are, it's deeper, the connection, I think, or
Mm.
it's safer, that's the word, it's a safer connection.
Do you mind sharing, and it's okay if you don't feel comfortable, but do you mind sharing like an example of how you used to push people outside the wheel so they had to be outside the wheel in order to interact with you that you don't do anymore?
Well, working extra hours, I will
Uh,
set up meetings outside of work, like hours. I will set up meetings. Weekends, I will take meetings. And I will force my people, like, hey, can you please uh team with me Sunday, 11 a.m.
So they would have to
And
work outside of hours too.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, nobody liked that.
Yeah.
Even
Back,
even
yeah, go
though
ahead.
I said I'm sorry, but even though I said I like it, I didn't like it, of
Right,
course.
right. Back to something you were saying earlier on in the conversation. Basically, when your masculine takes care of your feminine, and this is inner, when your inner masculine takes care of your inner feminine, so you're no longer waiting for mom and dad out there to take care of you better, then the feminine can flourish. She feels safe, and therefore she gets creative. And you found that with the cooking, and you said you found that at work too. Like work is more fun now. So something I would add to that is you probably have literally a longer life as a result, because that is, the feminine is life. So that's why when we have like a newborn baby, a newborn puppy, fresh flowers, we like all that kind of stuff because it's light feminine. So you're feeding or creating the conditions under which your feminine can flourish. Whereas before it was kind of like her energy was being taken. And this is almost everyone in the Western world, men and women, they take their feminines and take that energy and like kind of convert it into something that it shouldn't be used for and make the feminine masculine. So it's like rather than enjoying a puppy for just being a puppy, you take the puppy and you like put a backpack on it and you make it do some work so it can earn money for you. That's essentially what people are doing to their own feminines. So it's interesting that not only do you notice a qualitative difference in your day-to-day experience, but I'm advocating that you're probably going to have longer life and better health as a result also.
Yeah, yeah. I have more time for myself. So I agree with that. I agree. Yeah, with being with me, it's been better.
So I want to say two things to that. Number one, long uninterrupted periods of free time is essential for intuition. And it's also essential for to feed your feminine, which are pretty much the same thing. The feminine is intuition and the intuition is feminine. Um, oh, there was another thing I just completely forgot. But do you have a response to the long interrupted periods of time being intuition? Like that feeds your intuition. Have you felt anything about that?
Yes, I remember me when I started the course. I said I cannot be without a task. Like if I'm gonna be free on Sunday, it's because I'm gonna do this and this. Like I'm gonna go. I knew what my day was planned already days before. And you said you cannot increase your femininity, like your femininity, um, if you're planning ahead. That's masculine. And I'm like, all right, so let's just live with it. So I started to notice that I do more stuff in a healthier way, like cooking. That's the example. I never cooked before, and now it's like I can be at the kitchen for hours just cooking and enjoying myself there and not planning ahead. I don't even know what I'm going to cook. I just so my intuition, I guess, is telling me what to cook that day,
That's
and I
amazing.
start doing it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I have also noticed this phenomenon of if you feed your feminine, you and your intuition, you're actually strangely more productive than if you're overly masculine, which is how I think we're taught to be productive, masculine, masculine, very, very linear. But you're more productive if you kind of plan nothing and have
Yes.
open-ended yes. This is the other thing I kind of forgot before, but now I remember is what's interesting also about what you're sharing about the free uninterrupted time and increasing your intuition is not just the connection between intuition and boundaries, because as you know, I advocate that boundaries is masculine and intuition is feminine, and they're two sides of the same coin. Like intuition is the feminine aspect of boundaries and boundaries is the masculine aspect of intuition, so you can't increase one or have a better relationship with one without also increasing the other. um, there is an aspect of self-love and loving yourself, like not seeing yourself as annoying that comes with what you're talking about. Because when people are overly scheduled up and they make themselves busy, and sometimes you can make yourself busy with, let's say, an overly chaotic partner, even, or an overly chaotic infantilized mother, like where you have to like attend to their needs all the time. You can make yourself really, really busy, not just with work or like hobbies on the weekends and like appointments, but even people, like really bringing you down, like dragging you down kinds of relationships with people. That's to distract yourself from just being with yourself. And the fact that you can spend long uninterrupted periods of time by yourself completely means that your self-love has gone up and that you actually enjoy yourself. That's also a huge victory that a lot of people may never experience in this lifetime. So I just wanted to point that out. um, do you have any concluding statements?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I remember I told you I feel lazy, not planning ahead. I feel
Uh-huh.
lazy, and you said, "Well, be lazy.
Mhm.
Be lazy. What's the problem?" I'm like, oh my God, like I have never not do something. Like I need to be doing something. And so thank you for teaching me that it's not being lazy, it's being uh, it's just to show myself some love, some respect. And well, I feel different, completely different. Like I hear myself more. I I I enjoy things more, basically. So that shift. And I yeah, I can tell I'm not going back to the other way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No.
Congratulations. Yes.
So thank you very much. Yeah, I yeah, it's a life-changing course or um, yeah, things to learn. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And thank you for being here today and sharing your experience. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, bye. See you next time.